Up until now, I was skeptical about the Funimation streaming platform shutting down, as I thought maybe keeping it was another strategy to make more money. But as it turns out, recently Sony and Crunchyroll have made an official announcement that will be removed on April 2nd this year. Well, whether you like them or hate them, this is a real bummer. As a quiet observer, I'm going to share as much research as I've done and give you my thoughts on this. Funimation still has at least 200 titles that still have not moved to Crunchyroll, and a couple of examples from the research I've done include Sergeant Frog, Durarara, and a variety of uncensored mature titles. Apparently, CR will not be moving any of those as Funimation shuts down, either for contractual reasons or they just don't care. With digital copies that people have access to on Funimation, Crunchyroll has responded in a non-answer kind of way that they do not support that, and they're working to enhance content and provide you with an exceptional anime streaming platform. This may lead some people to assume that they don't have a system for that, and they're just not gonna make one. Where I learned all these are from the YouTuber Otaku Spirit.
This massive catalog they have promised us they will move over to Crunchyroll that they have not done, over 200 titles, plus uncut, different languages, everything that is not being moved over that I'm thinking they're probably at some point just going to kind of push under the rug. Oh, you're wondering what happened to your digital purchases over at Funimation? Yeah, we don't have a system for that. Just assume we're probably not going to do that, and you're going to lose your digital purchases. Is all the Funimation catalog available on Crunchyroll? I'm surprised they actually have this in this pack. Most of the content has been migrated already. We're just missing, like, I don't know, 260. Web Gaming, which is somebody I regularly talk to, a friend of mine, he's crazy, and so he's been keeping an eye on the entire catalog, and he's lists 266 items. And again, that's not even counting the subs and dub versions that they didn't transfer both of them. Like some catalog items, they only moved over the dub. Some they only moved over the sub. Some they only moved over the uncut versions. Some they only moved over the cut versions. Like Akudama Drive is still censored on Crunchyroll. Original broadcast, when I watched it on Funimation, the only version you had was uncut. And for some reason later on they got a cut version, and that version got moved over. It's like, and it's not like nudity or anything, it's violence. They're censoring violence. It's like, where's the uncut version? Anyways, continuing. Our team is working daily to bring more content and to all of our fans. I think they're pretty much just gonna give up. I think this is probably whatever has not been moved over at this point, because they've slowed down to a halt. So whatever they have not moved over from Funimation to Crunchyroll, just say it. You're not moving them. There's probably a contractual reason, like they were only able to put it on Funimation.com. They're not allowed to put it on Crunchyroll.com. Something contractually is probably keeping them from doing that, or they're just lazy and they don't care. Nobody's watching it, don't move it. But the last little question they have is, what is going to happen to my digital copies? Yeah, you know, whenever you buy a copy of Funimation titles and it says you get a digital copy with it, or you went to their website and said, hey, I want to watch this movie, and they're like, $20 if you want to watch it on Funimation. We understand that you may have concerns about your digital copies from Funimation. Please note that Crunchyroll does not currently support Funimation digital copies, which means access to previously available digital copies will no longer be supported, or will not be supported. However, we will continue to work. However, we are continuously working to enhance our content offerings and provide you with exceptional anime streaming experience. That's such a non-answer. We appreciate your understanding and encourage you to explore the extensive anime library at Crunchyroll. You're obviously worried about what you bought, these digital copies that you bought, these ones and zeros that for some reason you threw money at us thinking that we're going to keep it around. Well, don't worry, because we're working with Crunchyroll to get them more stuff over there and provide great streaming.
The way he laughs at this response really says something about how unhelpful that is. Want to see more? I'll put the link to this video in the description. But anyway, with the last days of Funimation coming to an end, there are no other alternate sources to watch anime, there's no reason to improve anything, and they can do whatever they want. You've probably heard these things. Because of this, people are now turning to piracy. While some people may be happy, about this because of the controversies they've had in the past few years. For everybody else, this is a major disappointment. On my last video, I wish Funimation was back. I got a couple of negative comments with people saying things like that. So I decided to do a little bit of research around things like Vic Mignogna or certain writers including political jokes in the dubs. What do I have to say about these? I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for this. For the former, I'm not citing any of the hashtags about standing with or kicking Mignogna. This is because I do not know him or his accusers personally, nor has Funimation announced why they fired him. Everywhere I go on YouTube, Reddit, Tumblr, etc., I see a bunch of comments that read, "Oh, Monica Rial is lying because she's not making eye contact." No one legitimately knows why he was fired since Funimation never specifically said why they let him go, but considering he's hated, it's pretty likely he's not a very good person. You know, I was on the Vic train 100% until I found out today that his girlfriend left him around the same time and testified against him. And they worked together for over 10 years. And frankly, none of you people, or even his coworkers, knew him better than she did. That's kind of not a good sign, lol. That's really all I have to say about that. You can scour through all of the online BS and interviews you want. In the end, you weren't there, and you don't really know the guy. I don't like Monica or Jamie at all. In fact, I find them annoying and immature. Take that as you will. They're all probably guilty of something. But his girlfriend? She's aware more than any of us will ever know. Note that that last comment stated it's possible that Vic, Monica, and Jamie could be guilty of something. But in the end, since we were never there with them, we can't be too sure. In short, the more of these comments I hear, the shadier this scenario even becomes. As a result, I am not standing with Vic or kicking Vic. Even if so, I'm afraid that doesn't matter anymore. What difference is throwing out hate for Funimation or Vic gonna make? The problem we're facing right now is a monopoly. We'll get into that in a little bit. As for the political references, I've recently seen some criticism that Jamie Marchi has gotten for rephrasing the dialogue in the English version of Dragon Maid. When Marchi's character was asked why she changed clothes, she says that pesky patriarchal societal demands were getting on her nerves. While in the Japanese version, she says everyone was saying something to her. From what I've researched in the sub, she just says that she was getting a lot of attention because of her appearance. Whereas in the dub, the line is about feminism. The other girl also takes her side against patriarchies and doesn't comment about her body. The reason this scene is controversial is because it is an inaccurate translation. Now, this is one I can understand more. The trick about producing dubs is to stay as accurate to the Japanese version as possible. But on the other hand, not every line is a direct translation. Sometimes you have to rephrase it so that it matches the mouth flaps on the characters. On top of that, not every Funimation dub has political language or anything like that. When I looked at clips of subs and dubs, like Fairy Tail, My Hero Academia, and My Dress Up Darling, I could barely find anything related to that. Sometimes, even the dialogue is localized in the sense of rephrasing words based on terminologies that can't be properly translated. For example, look at this comparison between the sub and dub of My Dress Up Darling, where Marin Kitagawa looks for Gojo.
Gojo, come here! Gojo! Gojo! Gojo, come on!
This clip is from Harry's Marin's Gojo-kun sub versus dub. Throughout the comment section, I've seen a lot of positivity with lines like, "Yo, Gojo," or "Gojo, come on." With Fairy Tail, I've barely seen any hate for the English version. In fact, this is one of the animes where the dub is considered to be better than the sub. I could go on and on about examples, but like I said, not all dubs are localized in the sense of political hints or whatever. On the other hand, I also don't think it's a wise idea to throw hate at Marshy on social media, as it may look more like harassment, rather than constructive criticism. Speaking of, I've seen a clip of her at a panel answering a respectful question on why she rephrased the dialogue that way, and the way she responded did sound bizarre. Like, what does being a woman have anything to do with that? Do you really have to throw it back at them when somebody disagrees with you? Anyway, I'd say I'm less conflicted with this, as I understand why some people would want more faithful translations, but it's also hard to do that sometimes. There may have been some issues with Funimation in the past, but unfortunately, calling them scummy because of this doesn't make Crunchyroll or this merger any better. In fact, that would just make it harder for people who liked Funimation better as a service. On Instagram, I've seen people saying things like, the only difference between Funimation and Crunchyroll, in my opinion, is Funimation cared about their dub watchers and put forth their best effort to bring as many English dubs as possible. Crunchyroll just goes with whatever they think is popular or data they have, and hope everyone switching over will just watch subbed. Or, am I the only one who liked Funimation? Their setup was so clean. I've even heard that Funimation was known for reviving discontinued series with the original voice cast. But here's one big thing that made Funimation better than Crunchyroll even before the merger. In 2022, the YouTuber Enzo is Tired posted a video called The End of an Era. In it, he said he couldn't find a controversy of how much money funny translators made.
Crunchyroll is now worth millions of dollars, so they can easily make their lives better, right? Not really. While Funimation had a lot of controversies, none of them to my knowledge were about how much translators got paid. CR has the worst rates, and now that Funny is being rolled into it, it's unlikely they're gonna shift the pay to theirs.
He also referenced another personality called the Canepa Effect, who made a video titled It's Impossible to Live as a Crunchyroll Translator.
There's a really good video by the Canepa Effect that if you haven't seen, I'll link it below if you want a better understanding about all of this.
So I went to that video, and he said that translators made $80 an episode.
$80 an episode. I've known that number for years. It's the amount that Crunchyroll has paid translators for years. It's not just rumours, and I've been able to confirm that. Not only were these the rates when the company first went legit after its fansub days, but they've continued into at least the last few years, if not to this day. If this is the first you're hearing about it, it's not surprising. It's definitely possible that Crunchyroll has a non-disparagement agreement baked into their contracts with translators, and there really isn't any way to say that number without coming off as disparaging.
According to him, it started with Ken Hoinski, who was once a fansubber and created a company called MX Media. During the 2000s, Crunchyroll was an illegal streaming service. They eventually bought MX Media, and Hoinski briefly became a vice president. In other words, he's the reason Crunchyroll offers low payouts.
Ken, otherwise known as Tofu Sensei, was the co-founder of fan-subbing group Live Evil, a team that prided itself on their ability to have an anime episode completely translated, edited, subtitled within half a day. Impressive. In 2008, Hoinski established MX Media with a bunch of Live Evil translators, this time a proper translation firm, involved in manga, light novels, but most of all, anime. In the early days, MX Media had become one of the primary companies handling Crunchyroll's new simulcasts. To Ken, the reason was because of their efficiency and speed. But to others, it was because they massively undercut the competition, charging Crunchyroll far less than they should have been. Since these guys were fansubbers used to earning nothing, they were in positions where they were able to accept a low amount per episode. Veteran anime journalist Mike Toole accused Hoinski at the time of undercutting the entire industry. An industry where translators used to be paid a few $100 per episode had turned into $80. In 2010, Ken sold MX Media to Crunchyroll and became VP of production at Crunchyroll for a few months.
At some point after Hoinski left Crunchyroll, he released a book called Above the Game, A Guide to Getting Awesome with Women, released in 2014. This became controversial as it supported sexual assault. Eventually, Kickstarter gave the public an apology, Hoinski moved to Japan, changed his name, and works outside of the anime industry.
There is nothing good about Ken Hoinski's legacy. He was a creep who paid his translators $80 an episode, undercutting all other anime translators. But when Crunchyroll bought his company, they weren't his rates anymore. They were theirs. And instead of the rates growing to match the rising revenue and popularity of anime in the West, it either stayed the same or even dipped.
Now, I've also heard that payments in anime translation or English-dubbed voice acting may not be as big as most American jobs. But if these tubers say it's a big deal that Crunchyroll has the worst out of their competitors, it's pretty clear that Funimation, let alone HiDive, pay their translators more. The Canepa Effect uploaded a following video called "It's Still Impossible to Live as a Crunchyroll Translator," which was an update explaining how it got worse.
Behind the scenes, a bunch of roles shifted about, with Crunchyroll staff across a number of roles leaving, their spots left either vacant or filled with Funimation or Sony employees. Basically, it's still called Crunchyroll, but it's Funimation's COO running the show. And despite fans fearing a monopoly, the new Crunchyroll then had the uphill battle of convincing everyone that this merger was a popular idea. It was announced under the title of, quote, Funimation Global Group to acquire Crunchyroll, fans win. And that fans win part has been seen all over the place in an effort to convince us, the fans, that hey, we won. They even went so far as to pay popular anime influencers, not to promote anything in particular, but just to say that the acquisition was a good idea.
Crunchyroll and Funimation just took anime to the next level.
This means all of your favourite anime in one place.
But it's not just fans. They've also got to convince production companies in Japan that users are happy with this merger. With big pushes from Netflix and now Disney, the industry still wants anime licensors to have to fight over their shows. But even if the industry can get its money, a monopoly still isn't great for anyone that's not a Sony executive. As much as they say that we, the fans, quote, win, streaming services are often quick to exploit that. As Netflix has gotten bigger, their subscription fees increased as well, and it didn't take long for Crunchyroll to get rid of their option to watch new anime with ads for free. Back when I was in high school, that was how I got into seasonal anime in the first place. Even if it's cool to get stuff like Decadence now on Crunchyroll, they wouldn't be merging these services if they didn't think they could get more money out of us. It is worse for translators though. During a panel at Crunchyroll Expo 2020, translator Adam Linson-Meyer insisted that it was important for anime translators to pick up jobs across the industry, instead of just at one company. His comments are prescient. His logic was that when you're stuck with a single client, you're always going to be subject to shakeups within the industry, and decisions from the very top can negatively affect your income. But the acquisition has made that much more difficult. Translators who worked for both Funimation and Crunchyroll are now left with just Crunchyroll and a drop in their income. Why don't they just quit? To begin with, a lot of people do, but also, corporate consolidation really limits your options. Crunchyroll now scoops up the vast majority of seasonal licenses. It's actually been a shining ray of hope to see HiDive doing so well in this current season. Your boy Kongming and The Executioner and Her Way of Life alone are worth the price of admission. It was acquired by AMC Networks earlier in the year, and despite being a fraction of the size of Crunchyroll and Sony, they offer better deals to their translation staff. If anyone in the Japanese anime industry is watching this, the message to come away with is, license your shows out to HiDive. A monopoly doesn't help anyone. In my last video, I did a bit of maths to figure out what somebody outside of the anime industry would charge to translate an episode, and I got averages between $400 and $500. This time, I decided to just ask translators, hey, what do you think would be a fair rate? And believe it or not, I received answers between $400 and $500. What anime translators are asking for isn't absurd, it's normal. Anime subtitles are of a similar high quality to other audiovisual media, consistently nailing character voice, natural dialogue, and timing. And so, especially with anime streaming being such a profitable business, you'd expect that they could shell out the same kind of cash. But one thing that's been consistently made clear to me across the years is that while translators obviously do care about being paid a fair rate, they also care a lot about having the tools and time to do their job properly. Getting the episode scripts and having the time to go over them to deliver something that's just as fun in English as it is in Japanese is essential. That show I mentioned just before, your boy Kongming on HiDive, the 6th episode of that blew people away. Not just because most of the episode is rap battles, but also because of the subtitles from translator Jake Young that brought the fun and rhythm of the Japanese script to English speakers. It's not easy. The rhyming schemes, the existing English text that needs to be worked around, the cultural references. Translating this episode not only involved doing a bunch of research on how to write rap rhyming schemes, but also involved being able to ask for help and advice. And according to Jake, he was provided with the script and video, quote, far in advance, something that he regarded as instrumental in being able to do a good job with it. Funimation likewise offered more time and guaranteed more resources than their former competitor. It is more difficult to translate at Crunchyroll, which honestly is ridiculous. Why is it that the largest vendor is having the hardest time getting assets to their localization staff early? This is a company that doesn't just license anime, but co-produces it as well. If the translator needs information from the production team in Japan quickly, then that should be facilitated, because that's how anime fans outside of Japan experience their work, and everyone in this business is striving for accuracy.
The point is, even if you may have issues with Funimation, you have to understand that nothing in the industry is black or white. And these are the kinds of things that happen when you have a merger, or as some people may call it, a rebrand. Producing lower quality products, decreasing payouts, lack of competition, and increasing prices. One quick note. There's been a misconception on the internet. On Twitter, somebody posted a screenshot of their email saying that their price of their Crunchyroll plan will increase from $54.95 to $100 on January 28th, 2025. Apparently, people weren't reading the tweet and just assumed that meant they were already being charged higher prices once everybody's Funimation accounts were transferred. The user clarified that he was grandfathered to his 2014 yearly price from his Funimation account. $100 is actually, and always has been, the Mega Fan Plan on Crunchyroll. For him, his price will change, not necessarily everybody else. In fact, I've taken a screenshot of my email saying that my next billing cycle will begin on January 22nd, 2025. I think the reason it doesn't say anything about price increase is because on my Funimation account, I've already paid $100 for a Premium Plus Ultra, the same price as Crunchyroll's Mega Fan Plan. I'm bringing this up because this isn't necessarily an example of them increasing prices. Who knows, maybe it will happen one day, but the rest of the problems still stand. Without Funimation, people wouldn't be able to watch Soul Eater, Danganronpa, Rosario and Vampire, Attack on Titan, Fairy Tail, and My Hero Academia. So, when Funimation shuts down, people turn to piracy, and Crunchyroll starts to struggle, will they approach bankruptcy? What's going to happen to all those dubs Funimation did? Where will the rights go? Will that portion of Crunchyroll that was once Funimation rebrand as the latter and split up with the former, or will a new American anime studio rise and take those? I'm starting to get concerned. Not to mention, I've heard that HiDive is struggling and has shut down in some countries. The more of these reports I see, the more it makes me wish Sony had stayed away from Funimation and Crunchyroll. After thinking a little bit about healthy competition, I've made some considerations about what I wanted. Am I a sub watcher or a dub watcher? The answer is dub watcher. In other words, before this rebrand, Crunchyroll wasn't as focused on dubs as Funimation. As an actor, do I want to try English dubbing someday? Yes, I do. If I heard right, I think Funimation had more classics or older series, whereas Crunchyroll had a broader library of older and newer series. Honestly, I don't care much about that. Before the rebrand, Funimation distributed titles on both its streaming service and Blu-ray releases, while Crunchyroll didn't used to do that. So I thought, maybe I'll own a physical copy of this anime if I lose internet connection. In addition, I think they had offline viewing, and you'd need the Premium Plus to access that. But with Crunchyroll, before the merger, they never did. Again, Crunchyroll pays their translators $80 per episodes, while Funimation offered $400 to $500, and since they focused on dubs a lot, I'm guessing they paid their actors a similar amount. So, imagining the pre-rebrand, if I had to pick between Funimation and Crunchyroll, the former gets my vote. But now that we have a singular platform, people are expressing disappointment. Some may turn to pirate sites, while others may start buying physical copies. Either way, I hope this situation changes. It may not be as soon as I wish, but one way or another, maybe it will.